Hey, I wanted to talk to you a minute today about the gig economy. What is the gig economy? It's basically the side hustle, side income economy that's become so popular today and age. I hope you're still listening to this ad because it's really important for me. I was in the network marketing industry for over 13 years and I had an incredible experience. I learned a ton of things, but there were many things about the industry of network marketing that I really didn't love. One of which was the overinflated products. Number two was the fact that I had to build a team or balance those things that we would call legs, the whole pyramid thing. I really was done with that. About a year ago, I was introduced to a social retail company. Social retail simply means that we are using our social media platforms, which are free, by the way, to promote products and services that we love. The affiliate marketing is booming. Not even going to lie. It's an incredible place to be in. And I'm speaking to the woman who's in her 30s or maybe in her 40s, and she'd like to create that extra income. She'd like to create income on her own time. And she'd like to do it in a company that isn't all about the hype, that has some real products that she can get behind and would work with somebody who wants to teach her how to do that. If that's you, then I would really love it if you would reach out to me. Feel free to comment below or leave me an email. Scan the code. I'm sure there's a code somewhere if you're watching on my YouTube channel, but I would love to get in touch with you. And this is why. The company that I'm with, modere.com or modere.ca, depending on where you're at, check out shiftingretail.com. So that's shiftingretail.com. I want you specifically to go check out the values of this company and what their mission is. That was really important for me. I got flown down to the corporate offices and I had a chance to meet with the corporate crew and meet with the visionaries that are really driving the company forward. And what I discovered is this. The first thing they said to me was, Candice, when people come here from a network marketing company, they start making money. Now, disclaimer, this is work. This is going to take work. This is going to take energy, effort, time, and skill. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. Those don't exist, at least not ones that I would like to put my name behind. However, this company pays us 10 to 36% on commissions of whatever we've moved within our business. And we get paid daily. We get paid up to twice daily. Biggest, coolest thing about this, if I move product, I get paid on the product, period. No balancing legs, no having to do any of that stuff. If product moves because of a referral that I did, whether it was through my social media, through a swipe up influencer, or a person-to-person conversation, doesn't matter. I'm going to get paid on it. And for me, being paid on the work and the effort that I do is important. So if this is something that's intriguing to you, I invite you to head over to shiftingretail.com or head over to Smiley, that's CSMILEY.shiftingretail.com, and you'll be able to join my team directly. If you've got some more questions, please comment below or find a way to contact me and get in touch, because I would love to share with you how we're building this and how affiliate marketing is the place for you to be. And trust me, once I show you how to do it with this company, I will show you the many companies, brick and mortar stores, you name it, sole proprietors, entrepreneurs who have an affiliate-based idea. And once you can do it with one company, you can do it with any of them. So I'm excited to teach you that. In fact, so excited, we're going to give you 120 days of done-for-you posts or text that will help you so that you don't have to worry about what to post or when to post or how to post it. We're going to give all of that to you. You just got to show up with drive, determination, and some cash flow to get you started. $39.99 gets you your affiliate link and code and gets ready to start. Maybe you want to try some product too. It's awesome. But up to 2 customer orders actually qualifies you for commission. So you don't even have to place an order, provided you've got customer orders that are moving in your business. Brand new customer orders qualify you for commissions every month. Super cool. Definitely an opportunity for somebody who wants to come in, put some effort in and work with integrity, work with honesty, but really begin to use the social media time that right now is really just wasted time and turn that into cash flow. Awesome. Hope you have a wonderful day and keep enjoying our show. All right, well, welcome back to another episode of the Create the Ripple podcast. I am your host, Candice Smiley. Now, today we're going to talk about trusting the niggle and telling the truth. And today was really about both, right? Sometimes when I'm listening to my episodes, they were about trusting the niggle, so someone learning how to listen to themselves. And then sometimes they're about telling the truth. And that's usually for the people who are already living out loud in their values. Now, my guest today comes from the UK. So she has an incredible accent, incredible story, and she was an incredible joy to speak to be completely honest with you. Her bio is impressive. Of course, have a look at that in the show notes. But Lisa and I immediately connected on a number of issues. She's a mom of 2 kids. So am I. She's a business owner, has been in business for a number of years, highly entrepreneurial in her mindset. And we had an incredible connection. We wandered through a various amount of topics. We did touch on some very key things. So if you are a mom, if you are a business owner, or you're an entrepreneur, or perhaps you're both, I know you're going to get a ton of value from this. Now, caveat, the audio on this is not great, and I apologize in advance, but it felt really important to me to share this episode regardless. So reach for the volume on your computer, on your tablet, or on your iPhone, turn it up, have a listen, because the nuggets here are absolutely incredible. It was a very heart-led episode for the person who is constantly looking to make change, make impact, but is very, very, very human. Enjoy the show.
Okay, so thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here, and your story is incredible and it's inspiring. And there were some similarities to my own, actually, although I don't live in a very tiny house. Well, I don't live in a very big house either, and I've got my wardrobe's full of stuff I don't really need as well. So I will take some lessons from what you're doing. But I have a business called Roland Dransfield, and and Roland Dransfield is named after my godfather. And my godfather was a very important person in our lives. He met my dad when my dad was servicing his cars, when Roland had made quite a lot of money from nothing, and his rags to riches story. And dad serviced his cars, and Roland was so impressed with my dad and his customer service and his quality of service that he offered him a job. And dad ended up working with Roland for a long time. But when I was about 8, Roland came to my house where we lived, and he brought a bucket and a sponge, and he said, "You've got your own business now. So go out and wash all the neighbours' cars on the drives, and then when you've done that, come back and pay me for the bucket and sponge. And if you've got enough money, you're in profit. And if you're not, you need to wash some more cars." So I did do that. I was in profit day one. I paid him back. I still can't remember exactly how much it was, which I'm just gutted about. But I had my own business then. I had a car washing around from being 8 to being 15, when I fell in love with shoes, and I ended up working in a shoe shop. But I've always earned money from being 8. And I grew up in a working class family. My dad was an entrepreneur through Roland's support, for me, because of the values that Roland had instilled in me and the opportunities he created for our family on the back of his own opportunities, it was really important to me that I named the business after him 25 years ago this year. And I've also got 2 incredible children. I say children, my son's nearly 23, Alex, and my daughter's nearly 21, Nina. And I'm blessed with 2 incredible children, because in that whole period I've had a business, and I've had to be a mum, and I've had to be a leader. And some of those conflicts show up both in being a mum at home and also being a leader in the workplace. So I felt the niggle lots of times, and sometimes I ignore the niggle, and you're right, if you ignore it, it just bites you on the backside and it comes back again. So I would say in the last 3 or 4 years, I've really started to be truthful with myself around my values and my boundaries as a woman, as a human being, and as a business leader.
You talk a lot about business, and I love that you named it after, what an amazing story, because my parents were entrepreneurs, and I think that totally impacted the fact that I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. I'm like, what else is there? So you talk about using
leaving a legacy, but using platforms so business owners can use them for good. Let's start there if we can.
So I think my mum was very much, a stay-at-home mum, and she was there for us every single night after school. We lived 3 doors from school, so we had a really, it was fantastic. As soon as we finished, the bell went, we were able to play, and that was a great existence. And we had a fairly simple life, and Dad worked very hard, and Mum worked very hard in the home. And then I think it's difficult then, because I suppose if you have that situation where both parents are making massive contributions, for me, I suppose looking back, where my conflict came and that niggle was, I wanted to be that person that my mum had been, 100% of that for my children. And then I had to be so much of what my dad was, because my dad was an entrepreneur and that was in my DNA too. I started a business when I was quite young, so 2 years before I had my son, 21 months between them. I became, from being the breadwinner but at the same time, I desperately wanted to be my children. And that was extremely difficult when I look back to those times. My mum had to take my daughter for her 6-week check because I had to go to a meeting. On the day I gave birth to my daughter, within 2 hours, I found out that the person I'd promoted to put in place to help support that business for a few months while I could have some time out, she resigned on that day and immediately started to try and pull the business apart, so that I was in the delivery room or the recovery room when I got that news. So I was just terrified at that point, because I had a small got a PR business, and I had a small team of about 7 or 8 people. She was the senior person. And it was awful. I felt like I was a mother in that case for several minutes, and then I had to switch back into being that entrepreneur. And it was devastated, but I had no way of not doing both those roles. So, I was back in the office 3 weeks later, part time, and that was it. It's a time that you do. So I still grieve at that time. Having said that, when we had lockdown in the UK, I did feel that I got my maternity leave the first time
in mind. And I think to myself, would I really be able to step fully away from parts of who I am to just be a mom? Not that I, don't love and respect these women that do that, but I can remember being my first little one was 6 hours old. And I remember thinking, why hasn't my desire for impact and, these dreams I had, why haven't that gone away? I'm a mom now. I should just want to be at home. And I do want to be at home, and I still want to do these things. In fact, I want to do it more so that this little tiny being can be proud of me, and I can give her a life that I'm dreaming about all of a sudden. And it's such an interesting place to be in, I think, as parents and entrepreneurs, where we're literally trying to, bring those two very different pieces of who we are into balance, into alignment, into, at least holding hands. So, yeah.
But I do think if you do it the right way and you do it with integrity and with the right intention, your kids know, your kids sense that. Then, you're right, there were sacrifices, but it also gave me the ability to mostly not work on a Friday for a while. And I always dropped the kids off at school, and I picked them up 3 days, and I did a reading afternoon. So there was that flexibility, even though there were times when I would have to go away or have to work late some nights. But, my kids, they respect the way that I showed up. And they also know, as you say, you can't change who you are if you've got that drive. For me, every day I get out of bed, what drives me is to make a difference, is to create impact and create purpose and put people together and create some magic. And so if that's your drive, they can't switch that off, can you, as soon as a child comes along. And I actually think that having, as you say, that legacy, those children, it makes you want to do that even more. And so, it was funny one time, probably when my son was about 15, we were talking about work ethic. I think we're coming up to some big exams, and he said that my work ethic had put him off working. He's changed since, but I think he was like, that woman never stops. But it's integrity. I will never finish a job that's not finished properly, no matter what point of the day that is. So everything has to kind of work around it, and that includes parenting. Now, I won't parent half-heartedly ever. So you find a way. You can make it happen. You make the day stretch. Yeah.
You do.
Yeah. You can always find time for those other ideas. I think what happens is that they, they just flow all the time, don't they? They kind of like my ideas just get other ideas bolted onto them, and they all seem to work. And I just feel when I look back every year, it's great to know that you created so much more stuff and more resources. I don't think we're here to use up the resources. That's not our jobs as humans. We need to create more than we take out. So I enjoy that.
Now, you talked too about communicating values.
In fact, I start, I suppose, with 3 years ago. We, as an organisation, we were going through a lot of growth, and I brought some people on the team who were senior hires from other agencies who were kind of known or I'd found. And what I'd realised over a period of time, that they joined my organisation, which had latent and inherent values, which they were my DNA, but because they weren't official, they weren't publicly spoken, they were just how I showed up in life, and so therefore the business organically had those. If you get big egos, or you get people with different agendas who come into that, and they're very, they have strong or opposing values to your own, I realised that probably 6, 8 months, 12 months down the line, I kind of thought, what is going on here? And it's not the big thing, it's just that nudge every day. And it was like in those kind of a personal relationship, you don't see that red flag. You just wake up 12 months later, you think, where am I now? What the hell? How come I've just gone through that process? So it felt very toxic, and I didn't want to go into my own office. I'd kind of got to the point where I didn't feel comfortable there. And it was funny, we were moving into a fantastic new office. We were very excited I was very excited, and someone was very excited to make the move. And it fell a week. I'd had a holiday, I couldn't move. And I came back from the holiday, turned my phone on when I landed, and there was all hell let loose in the office. There were bickering, there was fighting. And it was at that moment I thought, this has got to stop. I have to go and draw a great big thick black line, and I've got to take control. And the first meeting in that fantastic new office was, it wasn't champagne and roses and all that kind of stuff. It was a really tough meeting, at which point I felt empowered, but I felt so passionate about the fact that it was my boundary. I was going to put that very clearly into place, around what was important to me and how I wanted to show up, and how I wanted everyone in the team to show up or ship out, essentially. And I gave people an option to leave quickly. So a couple did, actually. But we worked on our values as an organisation, and we worked out what was important to us. We studied lots of different values from organisations, and ultimately came up with the 15 values that we all, team members, delivery, integrity, respect for each other, and we wrote them, and we wrote them into everything that we did. So we were on the wall, they're on the website, they're in how we speak. But most importantly, there's not one value in that set of 15, and we all know 15, we all know them all, that doesn't sit well with me. There's nothing I've got a conflict around in terms of those values. So what I learned there is that I wasn't going to be so democratic that we could have some values in there that didn't speak to me. They had to all be, absolutely hold within the space that I wanted to hold for those values. So it changed our business. And on the back of that, it's made us realise that so many of the organisations that we would work with haven't got those values in place, or they have got the values, but they're in a drawer somewhere. They did some expensive management consultant 5 years ago, and they all came up with the values, and no one can even say what they are anymore, or they're so generic, they don't mean anything. So that is a lot of the work that we do with our clients, is to help them either communicate the values that they have, but not just to tell people what they are. How can you prove, how can you walk the talk? How can you, live and breathe those values? And it's we have one of our values is admit it, fix it, move on. And that's not a cop out. That's not saying it doesn't matter. That's when you have integrity slippage, which you do, it's an opportunity to say, okay, we have made a mistake here. Let's look at the mistake. Let's hold ourselves, let's apologize, and let's find a way of moving forward. And often the place you get to after the mistake is so much better than the place you were in even before the mistake. And that's it. That's having integrity. That's not a blame culture where you're not allowed to make mistakes. We help our clients with that. And also, it means that we are empowered and the team is empowered not to have to work with organizations whose values we can't align with, or who don't align with ours. So we will never expect a team member to have to work with a client or a person or a supplier or a team member that doesn't show up against our values, because that's exploitation. That's unacceptable. So our team feels safe and our clients feel safe that they are working with a team who will stand up, against our values, and they can hold us accountable. So it's a perfect system. And the key is doing the work in the first place, because that piece of work you have to do to get the values straight and stress test them and work them through is a lot of work, and most people aren't prepared to do that work. They won't do those hard yards to start off.
No, and I really love that you brought that up, because I did a values exercise. I mean, I always felt like I lived from my values, but I think, like you, I might have done it at a personal development course one weekend, and so I had a general idea what my values were. But words mean so much to me, and so in 2020, when I did a whole bunch of personal healing, really just sort of we can get on autopilot without even meaning it, right? We just sort of drift off course, and life is still good. But you're like, this isn't totally what I planned, and this isn't what I wanted. And there was a course correction I probably needed to make, I don't even know, 3 years ago. I didn't make it. It felt so subtle. And now here I am. And so I did an actual values exercise and came up with 10 values, and actually did the extra work to be like, is it kindness or is it love? Which one is it, right? And look up the meaning of the words. And I think that matters, right? Because simple things like the etymology of the word nice is stupid. And so I was like, well, I was a nice girl for a very long time. That was part of my problem, right?
Yeah.
And so, I love that. And you're right, because I've made decisions about companies to partner with, even with, in terms of referrals through the website, through the podcast. And one of the first questions I look for is, what are their values? Right? Who's their CEO? What kind of energy is subconsciously trickling down through the organization that's going to have an impact? But I don't know about you. I've discovered when you say no, because they're not in line, invariably the right client shows up like almost instantaneously. And you're like, oh, I'm so glad I have space to work with you because I'm excited to work with you, which is a really neat space. Yeah.
That's so true. And we had an example recently where the lockdown, and we have to understand how to work remotely together, because we're all a close team. We've always worked in the same office, but we went through a massive pitch process for a client that was it felt like it was a big legacy project actually, and we did 4 submissions, and we coped with that, with all the adversity around the business, because we were very, very badly hit initially with the work that we did, and we won it. We won it. It took us 4 months. We got it over the line. We won it. We were so absolutely delighted, and it was about legacy. We put so much heart into it. And then when we started working with the client, there were a number of different partners, and it was quite a complex setup, and it was being like gaslighted by a bad partner. That was how it was. But we didn't realize that the triggers where you question yourself, your ability, is it me? And I realized that it wasn't intentional probably on their part, but when it got to the point where I could see it was actually affecting the morale of the team, I called it a day, and I spoke to the client, and they just didn't, how they operated, as much as we wanted that job, and as profitable as that work was, but more importantly, it was the legacy piece that we loved so much. And I'm still hurting now that we've turned it down, but I'm not hurting we turned it down. I'm hurting we're not working on it. I'm very proud that we turned it down, because you could say to the client, these are our values. We love this piece of work, but we can't align our values with the way you operate, and we will not allow our team to feel undermined that they're not doing the work when we know they're doing great work. And we walked away, and it empowered the team so much. And 2 weeks later, an incredible piece of work came in that was just a joy, because we had that space. And I believe if you are clear on your values, that it sets you free.
I love that you brought up the gaslighting thing, because I think it's been empowering for me in this conversation, just being totally authentic and transparent with you. That I've often felt like as a business owner, I've tried and then failed and tried and then failed. And some very well-meaning people, have come back and said, well, you jump in with both feet. And I'm like, well, yes, no. But sometimes you don't know until you start working with that client. Sometimes you don't know until you're there because of the gaslighting or those sorts of things. And you're right. Often very well-meaning people do not recognize, when they're out of sync with your values. And so it's why it's so important to know those things, but then also to be able to call it. And, I think one of the things we become good at as entrepreneurs, as CEOs of these ideas and these companies is we've learned to say, hey, I'll have the tough conversation. This isn't a fit. And how many people end up staying in business relationships, continue working with clients, stay in romantic relationships, or even friendships that are not supportive, right? Where the abuse is so subtle. And that's something I certainly talk about with people. I'm like, I'm so sensitive to it now. I don't know if you are, but it's like this little warning sign goes off. So. Like, wait, that's abuse right there. We need to talk about this. And sometimes people don't know it. And then you say, I'm feeling a little bit abused.
You are absolutely right. And it is abuse. And there's so much abuse at a very low level that goes on in organizations and in life. And I think it's only when you do this work, for me, when I've done the work around values and I'm proud of my boundaries, and I don't always stick to them. I still have the admit it, fix it, move on scenario where I go, I've allowed someone to encroach my boundary there, and I'm being triggered by something that taps into all the conditioning and all the modelling, I suppose. If you don't have your values in boundary, how do you know when someone's crossed it? And you used the word before, nice. I grew up being told to be a nice girl, be a good girl. I used to be as a human being. I don't think it's a good word at all, because I think you had a quote and I saw it on your Instagram, and it's like, I've got to stop setting myself on fire to keep others warm. If you're a massive, yeah, exactly. I've done it all my life. I've done that all my life. And, if you're an empath, it's great to be an empath, but when is too much empathy a bad thing? And that attracts the narcissists. Yep. I attract narcissists all the time.
Oh, all the time. I gotta say, Lisa, I did not expect you and I to connect in this amazingly powerful way. I'm like, I feel like sisters is a strong word, but I'm just like, oh my gosh, I feel not validated, but almost like celebrated, for the mistakes I make. I usually have good intentions. It's why I create relationships and build businesses, and like you, right? Chase clients, put things together. And I guess it's different because I'm willing to step forward and then realize I have to step back, because there's learning even in that, right? But how powerful is it? You're right. I have spent most of my life. And as you were talking, I was thinking in 2022, one of the things I'd like to do is when I want to work with a client or I have a new idea, I'm going to start writing it down in my journal and let it sit for a little bit, just so I can do less of this forward and back motion, because it is hard on people that are around us. I think for me, it's recognizing there's an unhealed trauma there, because I need to be needed. I like being needed. I like to be a support and a help, and I want to be included, but not everybody wants that or is willing to put the work in.
No,
in the same way.
I agree. And also, I think sometimes, is there an ego thing in there? It's good intentions, but also I've always tried to mend the broken wing on somebody, and I am attracted to people perhaps who are that. I think I can love you, or I can make this project way better because I've got all this investment, and and it'll be all fine. Don't worry. And then you do get the client or the romantic partner who goes, wow, I've never had as much attention. I do want this. I'm going to suck the life out of this person, or I'm going to, or in a client scenario, I'm going to make this person going to overservice me. I'll pay them nothing because it'll do it out of legacy and out of love, and that's life. So that's when the boundaries have to come in, and you have to say, no, you need to pay me for my money, or you need to respect my boundary. And I will not mend you. You have to mend yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the projects that we're considering doing in 2022, and my partner on it, we're really talking about that. They're like, we need to set boundaries because both of us love to serve. And it's just in me. And the challenge is that I've got so many different, personal projects. I've never prioritized, my personal story and my personal stuff. And I'm trying to follow what lights me up. But some of these habits are so ingrained. It's so ingrained in me to serve, which isn't a bad thing, provided I'm serving, like you say, the people that aren't broken. So how could I get to a place where I'm serving people that aren't broken? What if I was working alongside people who were working just as hard? And that really requires me to do the work, like you say, right? Is this ego or is this higher self? And that can be such a challenge when you realize, oh, I'm actually the problem here. I reached out and offered, and that's one of the reasons why I call myself an essentialist. I've been reading the book. It's like my fourth time read, Essentialism by Greg. I can never say his last name. Anyway, amazing book. I'll make sure it's in the comments. But it talks about, when you see that email come in and somebody needs some support, are you the person who always offers first? And I, right here,
I know.
that's me. And I need to have boundaries in place. Half the time I think they're boundaries less for the other person and more for me, right? Because I think often, what would happen if I turned all of that energy that I love to send out and I turned it instead in? And sometimes I think that part of the reason I do this is because, well, then I'd have nothing to hide behind. I'd actually become successful. I'd actually, become present and focused. And sometimes I think we're more afraid of success, at least I am, than failure. I'm used to, mediocre. We're kind of comfortable there.
Comfortable, yeah.
Right? I think about this a lot, right? Well, I have nothing to hide behind.
It's really interesting, I have not thought about that, because while you are so busy, we have everyone lost in the office and the team, because I probably get a message on whatever 7 different platforms a day, and it's always, could you just, would you mind? And they always laugh. The whole team laughs, and it's like a dopamine fix in a way that I don't know. I'm programmed to respond to an ask, because I think, well, I can help. I can sort that out for you. Or who do I know that I could put them together? And then you realize you have the whole morning trying to, and where's the work? And people say to me, I don't know how you do it, because you never stop working. And I don't mean working at a desk. I have got a business coach who's been amazing over the last few years, and then we're working on that so I can hold space for me and ask myself, can I just do this myself,
right,
rather than responding to everybody else's requests. And it's interesting because, as you just said, then maybe if you do take that time for yourself, that does lead to more personal success than just serving other people.
I think about it a lot, especially right now, because, and then I have to trace it back, and I think, yes, and if I do, or when I do, and I focus on me, how much bigger would my impact be? And I'm like, oh, crazy, because there'd likely be more funds, so I could do less of the work that I don't enjoy. I'd have more time, which is the non-renewable resource, right, for family, friends, and other impactful ideas. And I think, wow, I actually do serve at a higher space if I'm focusing on what's important here first. But it's ingrained. It's really, really challenging. And it's so subtle. I was thinking about it yesterday, because, like we said, we got this idea. We're playing out different things. We're looking at setting boundaries so we don't overserve to clients. And instantly I was like, oh, we can help these 5 different people. And I fired that off to my partner, and she came back and said, but do these people expect you to build their businesses, or are they willing to do the work? And I thought, shoot. I've done it again. I've spent an hour thinking about building somebody else's business rather than spending an hour with my children, spending an hour focusing on my own business. And there's things I could be doing. And so I'm like, so why am I avoiding doing the thing? I'm like, well, because I'd be successful. I'd have nothing to hide behind and I'd have to actually stand in my success. And I think I know that, another level, there'll be another devil. So I'm like, I kind of like where I'm at. I could just stay here and continue to, right? Such a challenge.
I think, and I don't know if it's products of your upbringing, but we had an expression in our family which was family hold back, and we used to say FHB. So if friends or people turned up around dinner time and they were unexpected, they were there to eat with us and there wasn't enough food, FHB was like, we serve, the people around us first of all, and you might go hungry, you can have some bread and butter. I don't mean bread and butter, you have a bit of supper later on, and then, the other kind of value I was taught when I was a kid was, stand at the back of the queue. You're at the back of the queue and make sure that everyone else is okay before you, and then you come forward. That's the polite thing to do. That's the respectful thing to do. Don't be selfish. And then I kind of got that going through my childhood, and then I've got my father's entrepreneurial, and I felt I had to prove myself to him because I had my sibling was a brother was younger than me, much more academically capable, but I was the grafter. So I've got that going on, like the back of the queue, but then I've got to be the fastest runner. I've got to be the highest jumper. I've got to be the best debater, all the A's. And it's a real conflict. So even though, you do always feel that real divide about, being, helping, serving. But then, you do want to do those things for yourself. And I find it a real dichotomy that I struggle with every day. I check myself every day.
Well, this has been just an incredible conversation, Lisa. So thank you so much for showing up.
You're welcome.
To connect and be so, honest and authentic with me. I can see why you're having such a huge impact in your space and in your sphere, just based on who you are, right? Even as messy as it is sometimes.
Exactly.
I love it. But, to wrap up, is there anything you'd love to leave the listeners with, that we haven't discussed? I feel like we've had I got value out of today. So I'm hoping, somebody who is listening in also got value, but thank you so much. But is there something you'd like to leave as we wrap up?
One thing, we talked about leaders, and I think one thing, I read John Amiche's book recently. I have a podcast myself, which is called We Built This City. And I'm from Manchester, so I interview Mancunians, born, bred or adopted, and some of them around the world now, but we look at the values and relationships of some amazing Mancunians. And I was very proud to interview John, and his recent book is called The Promises of Giants. And it's about how we're all leaders, but we're just probably told that we're not leaders, or we can't be giants, and we might be programmed not to believe that we've got we could associate leadership with the ego, and that's not the case. And we're all a leader, and we're all a giant to someone. But the key thing that I learned from that book was that it's absolutely okay to be vulnerable. I protected myself from being vulnerable from being a kid. That's been the driving force. And so you bring that through. So you go through a couple of really abusive relationships. You get knocked by that. You have friends who use you to join the ride that you're on for a certain period of time, and then they drop you. You've got family members who see you in a certain way. So you've been a provider, and therefore you have to provide for forever because you've been successful. And you put the cloak on every day, and you put that cloak, that protective cloak on. And when you do that, you show an invulnerability. So people expect so much of you. And that's why I've realized that on the face of it, I've been told that I've let people down at regular points in my life. And I now know that's because I didn't show up as being vulnerable, because I gave the impression that I could do it all, I could mend things, I could sort it. And then people felt let down because they wanted all of that, but I can't give that to everybody as I go through life. I can't help everybody. And I found that in the workplace. so that there's no space for people to come on that journey with you if they see you as completely invulnerable. And it's also very off-putting and overwhelming for people if they feel they can't support you. So for me, I'm really learning and I'm working on showing vulnerability in life, asking for the help. Don't try and profess that you can do everything. And you'll be surprised the offers of help do come because people feel that you're a human being and that they can relate to you.
Well, I don't know about my listeners, but that was very powerful for me, and something I have been working on as well, right? With that fixer, and I mean well when I make the offer to be a support. However, with my words or with my actions, I've made promises that then I can't necessarily maintain or keep. And especially when you shift, like as you were talking, I was like, yeah, there have been times in my life, especially working with teams, when as the leader I've said, well, we'll do this or I'll help you with this, which isn't I will do it for you, I will do it with you, is very different. And I've been learning over the last few years to say I don't have it all together. And so yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah.
That is incredibly, thank you for sharing that. I'm gonna have to
Thank
listen
you
to
so
this show again.
Well, thank you. And it was amazing because when I was invited to come on the show, and I actually read your story, and as I say, the parallels in our journey, spiritually, I suppose, and our learnings are very similar. And so yeah, I feel that I'm not alone in that, 'cause and you're learning too, So that's a great place. Great for me too. I've learned a lot today. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm feeling the exact same way and appreciate it. My partner often says it's like you find your tribe when you do this, and I think it's been one of the most beautiful gifts. It took me until last year, so like 19 years, to really start telling the truth of my story. Through the podcast, but even just in life right now, it's sort of like here I am. I'm figuring it out as I go. Welcome to the mess. And it's been so not validating, but I feel like I don't need someone's validation, but I do want their celebration. And I feel like as I'm finding people who are very similar to me, like yourself, I feel celebrated. I feel like, oh, it's okay that I am this way and that I might be the only one that I know, except for, across the pond. And there's somebody else who's operating and dealing with the same things. And that's such a beautiful gift. So thank you for showing up today.
You're welcome, and it's great to connect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And to my listeners, I know you get value out of today, so I'm going to invite you, as I usually do, to like, share, comment, subscribe, go find the beautiful Lisa, follow along with what she's up to. It's been such a pleasure to hold space today. And to the rest of you, I appreciate you. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Are you looking for a simple, easy weight management solution? I thought you might be. I know I was. I also wasn't interested in something with a ton of gimmick without any science behind it, which I know a ton of companies have. The company I'm about to share with you actually has 12 of their own clinical studies. And for me, with my science-based background, I needed to know that. I also needed to know the product worked. And so I was introduced to the group that had 125,000 members in it, all supporting amazing stories of weight management, weight loss, hair regrowth. Oh my gosh. Not surprising though, considering the product itself has won numerous awards in and out of the nutraceutical industry, which I think is pretty incredible. Pretty exciting as well is the fact that it's made with their patented technology, 7 international patents on the collagen in this product, made entirely from chicken sternum. Chicken sternum, why? Because it most closely mimics the collagen that our own bodies create. Now, I'm a 36-plus-year-old woman, and so making sure that I'm maintaining and taking care of and trying to reverse the clock so I can age gracefully is super important to me. Making sure I'm taking products that are safe, making sure I'm taking products that are approved, and making sure I'm taking products that I would be happy to share because there's integrity at the top. So this company is a values-based company, which I absolutely love. Not only do I love that, but I love the flavors. This is mango. Mango's my favorite. This is from the Modera company, which you've heard me talk about before. 1 simple spoonful a day. In the morning, I can add it to my coffee if I feel like it. I don't add the mango, I add the vanilla to my coffee, but I can add a simple spoonful to my day. It tastes awesome. It tastes amazing. And it's helping my body to maintain the figure that I've worked to get to. Why not? Now, if you're looking for some weight management, this is going to help curb appetite. It's going to help your body to function as best. And we know that when you do something like that and you make wiser choices, your body says thank you. This is part of an entire system called the Lean Body System. I will make sure to post information for that below, or you're welcome to scan the QR code, which I know is going to be somewhere in the screen if you're watching this on YouTube. If not, head over to modere.ca. That's MODERE, modere.ca, or modere.com, and use code 5579027. Again, 5579027 to save $10 on your next order, regardless of what you put in your cart. Thanks so much. Have a great rest of the listen.